Nice. And we get to celebrate the fact that Mississippi's grades have improved from a C to a B on the American Kidney Fund's website. So I think that's a good thing. Their State of the State's Living Donor Protection Report Card, as they call it. And John Hoffman with the American Kidney Fund's Senior Director of State Policy and Advocacy is joining us to tell us about this impact and it'll have on our community in Mississippi. So welcome, John.
Hi, Rebecca. Thanks for having me.
Well, this is good news. I'm super excited to hear that we're moving on up in some of the right directions. So give us a little background about this report card and what happened to get us to a higher grade.
Sure. Everybody likes their grades going up. I think that's a universal truth. Yeah. So we've done a State of the State's report card for about 4 years, which is our effort to track progress and much-needed protections for living organ donors. And it points to the continued need for a baseline of federal legal protections for people who want to give the gift of life by becoming living organ donors. That bill has been introduced many, many years. I think this is its 7th year at the federal level. But we work on the state level as well to try to improve that process right now. In recent years, 33 states have enacted legislation to remove those barriers and to protect living donors. And Mississippi was the latest one, signing HB 1213 into law this month.
So what exactly does it do for those that choose to give a kidney to a loved one or a stranger or want to be a living donor? What kind of protection do they have now?
So, that's our key focus is trying to remove barriers, right? Whether they're financial, job leave, or regulatory, anything that gets in the way of someone who is healthy, who wants to become a donor, who's a match, make sure nothing gets in their way. So this particular bill makes sure that if you decide to be a living organ donor, your life insurance, disability insurance, or long-term care insurance provider cannot provide unreasonably high premium costs or, not let you renew your coverage when it comes up for renewal if you're between jobs. Right now, there's no federal legislation that stops that from happening, so it happens pretty frequently. We've seen reports of it happening 25 to 40% of people who try to become living organ donors and they reach out for insurance quotes, they find out that they're unaffordable because of that one component. We think that's not fair, and we think that the medical science does not support charging people more money who are living organ donors, because if you are a living organ donor, the amount of screening and health that you have to be able to do that, you're a person that's running marathons, right? You're running marathons. You're a healthy person. Once you give a kidney, you're back to your life exactly the same way as you were before. So there's no reason to discriminate against those folks on their insurance policies. So this bill will make sure that does not happen in the state of Mississippi.
Well, that's exciting. So in terms of impacting the kidney community here in Mississippi, how many Mississippians potentially could be helped by this for someone, if this is the thing that was keeping someone from donating?
Sure. So right now there are around 10,000 Mississippians with kidney failure, which means they need to receive dialysis treatments or kidney transplant to survive. So that's quite a few. There have been 8 in the last year reported data, which is 2021. Around 1,800 new cases of kidney failure, and last year in the state there were 160 transplants performed, and only 18 of those were living donor transplants. Living donor transplants are the preferable ones. The outcomes from the health perspective are much better when you get a living donor versus a deceased donor. So we're hoping to raise those numbers, right? I think 18 living donor transplants in a year for the state for a population of around 10,000 people with kidney failure. We think we can improve that, and this is certainly a step in the right direction that could maybe convince someone who was on the fence about becoming a donor to go through with it.
Okay, John. Well, my mama always told me to strive for A's. It was okay if I didn't make it there, that B's were acceptable, but, that I was an A student at heart. So if we wanted to keep moving up the report card there for the Living Donor Protection Report Card, what would it take to get an A?
It's a great question. I think my mom was the same way. so I feel that. So, there's a lot of other possibilities here. Legislation that has been passed in other states across the country. Some of those include job-protected leave for private employers. So basically to make sure that when you decide to become a living organ donor, your job is there for you when you come back. That could be paid leave. That could be unpaid leave. But the principle there is to make sure that your job is safe when you come back. Recovery varies in time, but typically about 2 weeks is standard for someone to come back to their work. So making sure that their job is protected while they go. Another piece of legislation that would raise the grade are tax credits for employers who provide paid leave. So obviously, there's a cost associated with giving someone pay time off, and maybe there's a cost associated with having someone cover that position while they're recovering. So a tax credit can be provided from the state to the employer for any cost that they incur when they offer that benefit. And then the last two are around paid leave via state family and medical leave laws. Those systems exist in varying capacities and generosity from state to state, but typically they do not include organ donation as a category from which you could apply for that paid leave. So that's another way to do it. All of those things together, that gets you to an A. But I think this is a great step. Representative Oscar Denton was a leader in this way, and we appreciate his efforts to get this bill passed this session.
We don't talk much legislation here on Good Things, John, but I definitely think this was something worth sharing and moves us in the right direction. And anytime we can help people just get informed information about being a living donor, or making that decision however they choose, to me is a really good thing. If people want more information about this, John, where can they go?
Sure. You can go to our website at kidneyfund.org, and if you want specific information around living donor protections, livingdonor.kidneyfund.org gives you access to that scorecard that we talked so much about today.
All righty. Well, I appreciate your time, John.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it.
All righty. There you go. Look at us moving on up on the report card for something